Okay. Welcome to Guitar Intro Series Part 3. Last night, I think I was just messing around in my room playing guitar and kind of came up with that little thing. It's not very complicated at all, but I do have a original song that I'm in the midst of working on that has this riff to it, or I don't know, chord progression. How does it go? Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Kind of like that. And I kind of stole from that and I don't know, made a second part or something. But I freaking love that chord. It's like it's not even a I don't know. It's a what would we call this? It's an F sharp minor 7 or 11 actually. My F sharp minor 11 with an E in the bass. Yeah. Um, and yeah, I don't know. Wanted to start this off with a little jam. So, what's cool, I guess, with this third part of the series, I'm kind of coming up with this on the fly, but I'm gonna try to jam or improvise or do something a little creative or show something that I'm working on or whatever with some of the instruments for part 3, just as an intro. But hopefully that, I don't know, got a couple ideas stirring around in your head about how you can just come up with some stuff that's not too complicated or hard, but can be really pretty or, I don't know, beautiful, whatever you want to say. And there's a couple of cool things that I was throwing in there. For any song that you're creating, a really cool thing that you can do is kind of like change the timing or slow down, speed up. This is kind of in 4/4. It would be like But what I was doing a couple times in there was throwing in like some triplets or polyrhythm triplet type feels. Like that. That can be a really great technique, and I don't know. It's definitely fun, especially when you imagine like whole band doing that together. But as promised, for part 3, I'm gonna go through a couple of scales and a couple chords, especially in the open position, and talk a little bit about tablature because that's how I'm going to be explaining a lot of this. So, I've kind of explained written guitar music with the 5 lines on the staff, and that's kind of the traditional way of reading music, and it's pretty important. But for guitarists and bassists, there is a cool system that allows us to kind of simplify things, and be able to transcribe and then read and play things like very difficult guitar solos and just a lot of different stuff a little bit easier than the traditional way of reading music, and that is by taking a grand staff and adding another line to it. Because our not a grand staff, taking a staff and adding another line to it. And so we would have 6 lines instead of 5. So normally there's 5 lines. I'm trying to get this to focus. Come on. There we go. Normally there's 5 lines like this for a staff. But if we were to add another one and then assign each line on the staff to a different string on our guitar, that is what tablature is. So you can imagine we've got 6 lines, and the bottom line would be our low E string. And each line would be assigned to a string. So it would go like E string, A string or 5th string, D, G, B, and E. And when we do that, we can, instead of reading regular notes, we would be able to write numbers for all of our different frets on our different strings, and be able to tell another guitarist, this does apply to bass too, they would use 4 lines for their tab staff typically, unless you were working with like a 7-string guitar or a 5-string bass, which is a thing, but we're just going to keep it to a 6-string guitar right now. So in tablature, a 0 would be our open strings. So if we had a 0 on the bottom line of our staff, it would mean that we're playing that open low E. If we had a 2 on the 4th string, we would have an E, but on the 4th string, 2nd fret. And so that's kind of how tablature is read. When you're trying to read like a more complicated tab, sometimes they'll also include rhythmic stems on the top of the staff. So you would be able to read the rhythm without the regular note heads, but the rhythm stems would kind of fall right on top of the numbers, and that would tell you kind of how the rhythm goes as well. But we're not really going to need that today. So what I'm going to go through is a lot of what we call open chords, full chords, that once you learn kind of these and maybe a couple more, you're able to play pretty much most chord progressions, or at least a lot of chord progressions, probably hundreds if not thousands of songs once you just learn these few shapes. The trouble is being able to memorize them. So if I were to call out like an A versus an E versus a D versus a C, you got to know which shape is which. And you also have to get some muscle memory and coordination with transferring your fingers in between all of the different chords. So once you kind of are able to get your fingers into these different positions and be able to play some of these open chords, it's very good practice to have a few chord progressions that you just practice over and over again, kind of going in between a couple of these different chords and building that muscle memory and just regular memory in your head of what a G shape is versus a D versus a C and an A and A minor and everything else. So at the end of the first book of the Hal Leonard series, they have this nice little chord chart page, and we're going to kind of go through these one by one. So this first one is an A minor up here, and you can kind of see the finger numbers that they recommend, hopefully. So it goes 2, 3, and 1. So if you remember, our index finger is finger number 1, and that would go on the first fret of the second string. And then I would actually flip it around. I would use my second finger for the third string second fret, which is your middle finger, and then your ring finger or third finger for the second fret of the fourth string. Now, the reason why I explain tab is because with a lot of these chord shapes, it's highly recommended that you mute the strings that you're not using. So in our right hand, we can get kind of, if we're not playing very precisely and we're just kind of strumming away, and we're trying to play these chord shapes, a lot of these chord shapes aren't going to work out too well if you're just constantly playing all of the strings. So for this first example, for the A minor chord, it's recommended that you mute the bottom low E string. So when I'm explaining these chord shapes in tab, I'm going to use the letter X for marking a string that you would try to mute. Now, when you're going to mute strings, you can either mute it by just not playing it with your right hand, or in some cases, you might mute maybe the... actually, you're not even going to have to worry about that yet. But sometimes you can mute strings with, like, your fingers that are fretting the notes. So, like, if I had to mute the top string, I can kind of mute that by letting my index finger kind of hover on the top of and lightly touch that top first string. But we're not really going to have to worry about that for all of these chord shapes. So let's start with A minor and just kind of go through how this tablature system is going to work. So if I were to say X 0 2 2 1 0, that is an A minor. So in that case, we would mute the very bottom low string. We're muting this one, or not playing it. 0 would be an open fifth string. Then we would have it was 2 2 1. So second fret on the fourth string, second fret on the third string, and a first fret on the second string, and then another 0 on the top. So that would be an open high string. So put that all together, we have a muted low string. Then we have our open A string, 2 2 1, and then an open high E string. So this chord shape all together, right there, that is an A minor. Now, let me just check the tuning real quick. Okay, it's not that bad. All right, so that is A minor. And you can really hear the like dark, sad quality of these minor chords versus the major chords that we're going to cover, which sound much happier. So making that distinction in your ears and being able to recognize that is a nice little step to being able to have some sense of ear training and whether a chord is a minor or a major chord that you're listening to. So the next chord on this is an A major, right in the middle there. And this one kind of looks like a straight line. And so the tablature for this is an X on the low string again, so we don't typically play that. This is a 5-string shape. That's what we would kind of call it. So it would go X, 0, 2, 2, 2, 0. So it's very close to the A minor. There's only one note that is different, and that is on the second string. This one, it's all kind of in a line for where we got to go 2, 2, 2. And the finger numbers would be the first finger on the 4th string, the second finger on the 3rd string, and the 3rd finger on the 2nd string. None of this is kind of set in stone. You don't have to play these exactly how it's recommended. When I play an A major chord, I don't do that fingering. I actually do a bar with my second middle finger, and I bar the 4th and the 3rd string together with just that one finger, and then use my ring finger for the 2nd string, 2nd fret. So all of this is just going to come down to you playing these chords like 100 or if not 1,000 times, and then just kind of like playing them properly at first, but you will find that sometimes you may want to finger these chords a little bit differently than what's recommended right now. So that's okay, but I would recommend at least at first avoiding having to do any barring is kind of a good idea, and use all 3 fingers here on this chord shape. So again, for an A major, we mute the bottom string. Then we have open 5th string, 2, 2, 2 on the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string, and then open high E. Okay, so this one is a major chord, and again, it sounds nice and bright and happy. And there is one other type of chord on this sheet, and that is a 7 chord or a dominant chord. So A7 is like A dominant 7, but we just call it A7 for short. And the A7 here looks very similar to the A major, but that middle 3rd string there is an open instead of fretted on the 2nd fret. So this one we have muted bottom E string, open A, 2, 0, or open, 2, 0. So this one is muted bottom string, open 5th, 2nd fret on the 4th, open 3rd string, 2nd fret on the 2nd string, and open 1st string. And they recommend that you use your 1st finger on the 4th string and the 2nd finger on the 2nd string. But again, I don't do that. I play A7 usually with my 2nd and 3rd fingers. So either one is okay, whatever feels better for you, but I do my 2nd finger on the 4th string and my 3rd finger on the 2nd string. So this one sounds like muted bottom string, or just don't play it. And this one has a kind of tense quality to it because dominant 7 chords are meant to resolve to something. They're meant to be unstable. So these are also the quintessential chord for the blues. And we learned about the blues in the bass part 2 video. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the blues, definitely check that out. But that is A7, 0 or X02020. The next chord on this sheet here is probably the hardest chord on this page. This is a B7. So B7 is X, 2, 1, 2, open, and 2. Okay, let me show it to you. Right there. There we go. So I don't know. It's kind of like a triangle, and then you got to fret the second fret on the first string as well. So again, muted bottom string. Fret 2 on the 5th string, fret 1 on the 4th string, fret 2 on the 3rd string, open on the 2nd, and fret 2 on the high E string. And this, again, is going to sound like a tense chord that's supposed to resolve to either a major or a minor chord. So we have muted bottom string, and then okay, so that's B7. For the fingers for that one, the way that they recommend we play it, that is the way that I play it. So I start with the second finger, or my middle finger, on that 5th string, 2nd fret. My first finger goes on the 4th string, 1st fret. Then my 3rd finger goes on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and my 4th finger, or the pinky, goes on the high E string, 2nd fret. So there's that again. And the next chord on this sheet is a C major. This chord is used a lot, this chord shape. So this is an important one to learn. As is, I mean, pretty much all of these are pretty essential. So C major here kind of looks like a diagonal line. Let's see. So it's that middle one in the 2nd row there. Kind of like a diagonal line there. And so for this one, we mute the bottom string again. And then we have 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 5th string. 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. Open 3rd string. 1st finger on the 1st fret of the 2nd string. And then open high E string. So the tab for this would be X, 3, 2, 0, or open, 1, 0. And it sounds like this. Okay. And then we'll go to a C7. This is just like our C, so you can just keep your fingers right there, and all we do is add the pinky onto the 3rd fret of the 3rd string. So this in tablature is X, 3, 2, 3, 1, 0. And this, again, is a C7 or C dominant 7 chord. So this is going to sound tense or bluesy as well. Then we're going to go to some different D chords that we can play. So the first one is a D minor. This one, it doesn't really look like anything. It just kind of looks whack. Let me see. So D minor is in that middle row, on the left there, DM. Okay, so it's just kind of a funny looking triangle. Alright, so this one is typically a 4-string shape. So all of the ones that we've done so far are 5-string shapes, where we typically play 5 strings. This one, and actually all of the D chords, are typically played as 4-string shapes. So this one is XX, where we would mute the 2 bottom strings, and then open, second finger goes on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, 3rd finger goes on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and our 1st finger goes on the 1st fret of the 1st string, or high E string. So this one, we have open 4th, 2nd fret on the 3rd string, 3rd fret on the 2nd string, and 1st fret on the high E string. Okay, and it's a minor chord, so this one sounds sad. All right, and then a D major is very similar, but we do have to flip some fingers around. So for the D major, we again mute the 6th and the 5th string. So it's XX, open 4th string, which is our D, and then we have 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and then our 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string. I know I'm kind of going quickly with this, but you can slow it down and back this up. And also just look at a basic chord chart. You can find them all over the place, online, or even if you go into a Guitar Center or whatever, you'll be able to find a chord chart for like $1. So there are ways to kind of start figuring these out, or have your own visual along with trying to figure these out. So this is a D major. So again, XX open, 2 3 2, and this one kind of looks like a triangle to me. So we go. And again, that's a D major, so that one sounds happier. Then D7 is kind of like an inverted D, and we do again have to flip our fingers around a little bit. So it's XX open 2 1 2. So the 2 1 2, the first 2 is on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. Then we got the 1st fret of the 2nd string and the 2nd fret of the top string. And it's again a 4-string shape. Alright, and that's a dominant 7 chord, and that sounds unstable and like it's supposed to resolve to something. Usually either a major or minor chord. Okay, and then we have our first chord shapes that use all the strings. And so we're going to play E minor now. So E minor is one of the easier chords you can play on guitar. This one is open, 2nd fret on the 5th string, 2nd fret on the 4th string, open, open, open. And that's it. So we got open, 2, 2, open, open, open. Alright, so that's E minor. E major, very similar to an E minor. We have open, 2, 2, 1, open, open. So we're just adding our 1st finger onto the 1st fret of the 3rd string, and that's how we do E major. The way that I play E major, and I guess E minor a lot of times, is flipping around my 2nd and 3rd finger. So I have my 3rd finger on the A string, or the 5th string, and my 2nd finger on the 4th string, and then my 1st finger on the 3rd string. So E major, again, is open, 2, 2, 1, open, open. And that's actually the chord that I was starting out that little jam with, an E major there. And lastly, for the E's, we have an E7 as well. And E7 is very, very similar to an E major, but we just take off our finger on the 4th string. So we have open, 2, open, 1, open, open. And for this one, the way that I normally play it is my 3rd finger is on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, and then my 1st finger's on the 1st fret of the 3rd string. So this one, we have open, 2, open, 1, open, open. And because it's a dominant 7, it sounds like it wants to resolve to something. The next chord on this sheet is an F major. This one is kind of like the first mini bar chord that you can learn. And it's pretty useful to start learning how to bar with your finger. Usually you do bar chords and bar with the 1st finger. So this F shape here is a 4-string shape. And with this, we mute the bottom 2 strings. So it's XX, 3, 2, 1, 1. And that 1, 1 on the 2nd and 1st string is typically barred, where we change the angle slightly from having a curl in our finger to more of like a flat, posture or technique. So you flatten out your 1st finger so that you can bar the 1st fret on the 2nd and 1st string. And then you just take your 2nd finger, and that'll go on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and then your 3rd finger will go on the 3rd fret of the 4th string. So again, it's XX, 3, 2, 1, 1. This can be pretty difficult to be able to do at the very beginning if you're just starting out, and that's okay. Doing any kind of bar chords at the beginning can be a little painful to the fingers, and you just got to get kind of used to how your finger should be sitting on multiple strings. So be patient with that one. The next chord is a G major. We only got one more after this. So G major, we have this is a 6-string shape. I actually play this 2 different ways. It really depends on the other chords that are in the chord progression and what else is kind of going on in the song. But actually 3 different ways. So G here, I guess the most common, most simple way to play it is with your 2nd finger or your middle finger on the 3rd fret of the low E string, the bottom string. Then your 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, and your 3rd finger all the way up at the top, 3rd fret of the 1st string, the high E string. And in the middle, there's open, open, open. So this goes 3, 2, open, 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 3. Okay. So that is probably the most common way to play a G chord. But we can also, if you keep the 1st and 2nd finger on those low strings, and shift your ring finger down to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and then use your pinky for that high G, 3rd fret on the high E string. Now we're also including a D on the 2nd string as well. So this would be 3, 2, open, open, 3, 3. Whoops. Okay. And then the last way to kind of play this is the way that the book recommends. This is probably the least common way I would play a G, but it does depend on the chord progression. Sometimes I do use this fingering. So this, we use the third finger on the bottom string now. Third finger, third fret on the bottom string, second finger, second fret on the fifth string, and then our pinky for that high G on the first string. So third fret, first string. So this is also an option, but for many people that, especially when you're first starting out, people tend to be not so comfortable using the pinky really at all. So this might feel really awkward to you. So I would recommend that first shape first, but in kind of in first place, I guess. But you can play it this way too. And the last chord on this sheet is a G7, which is the third fret on the bottom string, second fret on the fifth string, open, 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 and 1, fret 1 on the high E string. So this is normally, well, pretty much always played with the third finger or the ring finger on the bottom low E string, second finger on the fifth string, second fret, fifth string, second fret, and then first string, first fret with the first finger. So there's G7. So we just went through, how many was that? 15 different open chords. And if you can learn all of those and kind of practice going in between just practice going in between like one and another, and pick different combinations. That will help build your muscle memory at the beginning. What was I also going to mention? I had a good point. Hopefully it'll come back. Okay. Dang. Okay, forget that. So we're gonna look at just 2 scales that are kind of in the open position. Actually, 3. We'll look at 3. We'll do three scales. So we're gonna do a C major scale, just 1 octave. Then we're gonna do a G major scale, 2 octaves, and also an F major scale, 2 octaves. The easiest is probably going to be the C major scale, just 1 octave. And this, I'm going to use tablature as well to kind of explain this to you. So a C major scale is very closely related with our C major chord. So if you remember our C major chord, it is X, 3, 2, open, 1, open. Okay, and you'll notice that the scale kind of falls right into this shape, more or less. So the way that I play this open C scale is third finger starting with that third fret on the A string. Then we play open fourth, second fret on the fourth, third fret on the fourth string, open third string, second fret of the third string, open second string, and first fret of the second string. And then it's always good to practice your scales descending as well. So if we were going from the top, you got your first fret on the second string, open second string, second fret, third string, open third string, third fret, fourth string, second fret, fourth string, open fourth string, and third fret on the fifth string. Hopefully you got all that. And now you can kind of hear how this major scale relates to the C major chord. Okay, so there's our first scale. I could cover minor scales as well, but I think this video is already getting long, so I'm just going to do C major, which we just did, G major now, but 2 octaves of it, and then F major. So G major. We take our ring finger, put it on the 3rd fret of the bottom string. There's our G. So we start with that 3rd fret bottom string, open 5th string, 2nd fret of the 5th string, 3rd fret of the 5th string, open 4th string, 2nd fret 4th string, then the 4th fret of the 4th string, and then open 3rd string. And that is our 1st octave, but we can keep going. So we just played our open 3rd string, and we would go then to the 2nd fret on the 3rd string, open 2nd string, 1st fret 2nd string, 3rd fret 2nd string, open high E string, 1st string, and then 2nd fret 1st string, and 3rd fret 1st string. Okay, and this descending would be 3rd fret high E string, 2nd fret high E string, open E string, 3rd fret 2nd string, 1st fret 2nd string, open 2nd string, 2nd fret 3rd string, and open 3rd string. There's 1 octave. And then we would have the 4th fret of the 4th string. Then the 2nd fret 4th string, open 4th string, 3rd fret 5th string, 2nd fret 5th string, open 5th string, and 3rd fret low E string. Okay, so this would be... This is very closely related to our G chord, G major. Okay, and our last one, let me see. This one doesn't use any open strings, so this one is a little bit tricky and a little bit different. So this is an F major scale, 2 octaves. So with this one, we start on the 1st fret of the bottom string, and we go frets 1, 3, 5, then 1, 3, 5 on the next string, the 5th string, then 2, 3, 5, then 2, 3, 5 again on the 3rd string. Then we have frets 3, 5, and 6 on the 2nd string, and that's it. That's already 2 octaves for an F major scale. And if we're coming back the other way, we would go fret 6 on the 2nd string, 5, 3. Then we would go frets 5, 3, and 2 on the 3rd string. Then 5, 3, 2 again on the 4th string. Then 5, 3, 1 on the 5th string. And 5, 3, 1 on the bottom low E string. And this is very closely associated with our F chord, which we learned earlier. And that will kind of get you going on a couple of major scales that you can practice, and also a whole lot of chords that you can practice. And I would recommend also, once you get pretty comfortable with these chords, get yourself a capo. I don't know if I have one just kicking around here. I didn't really plan to show off a capo. But yeah, it's just a. Let me grab one real quick. So this is a capo. This is a way for us to kind of transpose our guitar, and that means that we kind of normally what we're playing off of this nut here as an open string, but this capo almost takes our where our first open where our open strings are, and it can change it to be any fret. So if I were to put this capo, and one of these ends is like all rubber, that's the end that you're going to put up against the frets. And you kind of squeeze the side to put it on, and usually put it on from the top. So if I were to put this across my third fret, 1, 2, 3, I would put this across all the strings, and it just kind of clamps down there. And now my third fret is basically open, and you can't really, once you put a capo on, you can't really use the frets that are behind it. But what's cool about this is you can now take all those 15 shapes that you learned at the beginning of this video, and you can use all of these, and it's still like playing a minor or a E minor or a C chord or whatever. But now you're not really playing a C chord, for example. Our C would now be moved up 3 half steps, and we would be playing an E flat major. Okay, if I had the capo off, quit it, it would be our regular C. But when we put the capo on, 3rd fret, now the same shape is a completely different chord. So that is extremely powerful, because now with these 15 or so chord shapes, you can pretty much play, I don't know, a lot of songs. Not every song, but an absolute ton of songs. So yeah, definitely go out and get a capo, and that will really give you some ability to play a whole lot of music. And one thing with just playing chords in general is that you do have to develop your right hand technique as well. So there's all different kinds of rhythms that you got to know in order to be a good rhythm guitarist. But that'll kind of come as you listen and try to copy other people's music and stuff. So hopefully that is going to set everyone off on a very good foundation for the electric guitar. And I did get my little mini guitar. I got the input jack fixed, but it's still kind of like acting up. So I put a brand new input jack in this thing, and it's just a terrible style of an input jack. Again, this was an $80 guitar, so I'm not really expecting perfection here, but still, now it's like at least usable. And as you heard at the very beginning of the video, it sounds great, and it's fun as heck to play. So I've been getting a lot of enjoyment out of this one. But yeah, that will do it for Guitar Part 3. Next, we're going to do, I guess, Piano Part 3. So that'll be next week. And also, happy International Music Day, which is today. I had a lot of musical fun, I guess. Today I was at a local boys and girls club where I work and do kind of like a ethnomusicology slash, um, or I don't know. I guess you would call it an interactive ethnomusicology class, where I teach about a lot of different genres of music, and I teach a lot of like the history and all of talk about a lot of the important artists that kind of like developed the genre and got really well known that play like a certain genre of music. And then on the other day that I go there, for each week, we break out a bunch of instruments and jam and stuff. But today I just went there and set up my acoustic guitar, a mic, and just played for the kids, and it was really fun. Um, I had a lot of Taylor Swift requests, somewhat regrettably. So I was playing Love Story and You Belong With Me, and I played Riptide, and like, I don't know, just a ton of other songs and stuff, but it was really fun. So that's how I spent my International Music Day, and also doing this double upload today for Musicians Performance Academy. And that was hype. And I also went out for my sister's gotcha day because we're both adopted from Colombia. And today was the day that she was adopted. So we went out for hibachi with my family. And that was awesome. So quite a good day. Um, and hope y'all have a good week. And we'll see you back again for a piano part 3 video. All right.